it's an art form. There's no words on it, but you can talk about anything, right? You can express whatever you want. And I think that's like a superpower in a way, but you get to express it through sound waves that are not words. I think that's kind of magical in a way. And thanks for
Awesome.
having me.
Thank you for being here. My name is Jayna, and I'm interviewing on behalf of the Music City Review today. We're all so excited for the Danish Quartet to come and play in Nashville. We're looking forward to it. I'm going to be at the concert. I know several people that will be at the concert. It's going to be awesome. So, in preparation for hosting you guys here in Nashville, I looked at your website and the bio and a little bit about you all as a group, and you started as teenagers, as young
Mhm.
musicians, right? And then your cellist joined you in 2008. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Um, Speaking to, of course, Nashville, Music City, being a place where lots of people are growing up and learning in the arts, um, I assume there will be a lot of young musicians in the crowd coming to listen to the quartet. So, what advice would you give to young classical chamber players who will be listening to the performance, knowing that you all started quite young, starting to play together? What would you say to them?
Whoa, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd say welcome. I'd say that we're honored to have you guys there. And I really hope that will be the case, that we have a lot of young people there. Um, I want to say to them, if they're players already, I just want to say have a great time at it. I think it's one of the most beautiful art forms that there are. Obviously, I'm in it, so I'm kind of but biased in that way. But I really do think so. I've enjoyed having music in my life, and especially chamber music, tremendously, because it's like to me it's been almost like a therapy in a way, it's an art form. There's no words on it, but you can talk about anything, right? You can express whatever you want. And I think that's like a superpower in a way.
Hmm.
You get to talk about anything, um, but you get to express it through sound waves that are not words. I think that's kind of magical in a way. So I'd say have an awesome time doing it. Don't stress too much about stuff. There's a lot of stuff to stress about in this world, but in this case, music, uh, I think we all need to work on being better at what we do, obviously, but it's just such a thing of beauty. Please just enjoy it. It's a great ride.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that insight. I get the sense from listening to recordings of the quartet and from reading your bios and some of that information that you've published that you just really profoundly enjoy what you get to do, and it really is just friends making music, and you get to take it around the world, and
Yep.
I love that. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Speaking of taking it around the world, your congratulations on tour kicking off. It's going
Thank
to
you.
be long, and I hope you all have the best time, and we're excited to see you guys in Nashville. But um, I guess question in two parts. One, how long have you been doing tours of this scale, and has it been longer or shorter tours in the past, or is this about standard? And two, for tours like this that you're starting with, um, what are some challenges of it that are not musical, like travel or working with your taking your instruments around and all that kind of stuff? What is that process like in the sort of behind the scenes?
Well, we've actually been doing this for a long time. We've played together more than 20 years now. And we've for the last at least 10 or so years, maybe even more, we've been traveling a lot. And it changes throughout the years. We used to do longer tours than this. We used to do up to a month at a time. Standard was like 3 weeks at a time. So a pretty long time actually, and a lot of concerts, a lot of time on the road. We used to do around 100 concerts a year. I
Wow.
think one year was like 120 concerts a year. Most of them were abroad, so a lot of traveling, and that's challenging. I mean, we were always very privileged that we could do it, but it's also challenging if you have significant others back home or anything like that, right? Then it at times it felt like when we were back home, we were just visiting actually, because then we spent a few days there and then back on tour doing something else and came back a few days home.
Yeah.
And now we do the longest that we do is about 2 weeks, two
Okay.
weeks tour like this one, because we all have families back home. We have small kids,
Yes.
so spending time on the road has become like an expensive commodity in a way, right? You don't want to do too many days at a time because every time you leave, it feels like you're leaving them, right? You're
Sure.
leaving the kids, which is never a great feeling. Um, but you're completely right. This is something that really enjoying doing. It's just fun how seeing how the feeling of it changes throughout the years,
Mm.
because it used to be going on a tour was, saying work is actually the completely wrong term for it, but in a way you went away to work, right? But now you go away and you get to play music, and because there's a lot of noise in the world back home, you have to do 1,000 things, everyday things and teaching and families and
Mm.
practicing. On tours, you're with your friends that you've known for more than 20 years. You play awesome music that you choose yourself, uh, and in a way, you just have to do that. And now it's become like an almost liberating feeling doing that, even though it feels like a strange thing. You're leaving your families.
Mm.
I think that's challenging though, and will never get easier. Is I mean, all the airport stuff
Of
and
course.
this part of it it's never really inspiring. It doesn't really get easier, even though you do it a million times. You still have to do the same things every time.
True.
So that part of it I could do without actually, but so that's why I enjoy traveling with trains. I even enjoy car rides much more, and stuff like that. But the
Yeah.
airports I could do without.
That's fair. I'm a cellist, so I understand.
Ah, okay, so you understand. Yeah,
Yes, yes, the
yeah.
headache. And sometimes I won't travel with my cello if I'm borrowing an instrument. I'll just travel with a bow case, and even then, they don't like the bow
Yeah,
case either. So
right,
it's
right.
an adventure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, well, it sounds like you all are excited and ready to have a good time on the tour. And
absolutely.
I wanted to ask about picking the music for tour as well. You're so coming up on the 18th. You're playing Caroline Shaw, and you're playing Haydn and Shostakovich, which is going to be a awesome program. I'm really excited for that. So, with that, is that most of what you're traveling with, or do you have sort of a rotation of different pieces you're playing at different places? Like, how much repertoire actually are you bringing on the tour?
Well, we bring around two two or three different programs, mostly just two different programs that we travel with. We do have tours where it's mainly just one program, but that becomes we don't really like that too much because it becomes a little bit. I don't want to say routine because that's not the feeling of it at all. But if you have to do it every night, we just prefer keeping it fresh in a way, right? And if you get to mix things up, putting them together in different ways, I think that makes much more sense than just doing the same thing over and over every night,
For sure.
even though it's awesome music.
Hmm.
But so this time it's also like two different programs.
Okay. Yeah, that's exciting. Um, and the sort of a balance of more contemporary music and then music from different eras. It's going to be great. And I know that's a big part of what you all as a quartet do as well. Even some of your other projects, having worked with modern composers, Scandinavian composers, as well as Schubert, Mozart, Beethoven, all that sort of stuff. So, in terms of working with contemporary composers and doing commissions and those types of things, or even your own projects, would you say that is more or less stressful and there's more or less pressure with projects like that than with playing some of the older classical masterworks?
Well, I'd say that totally depends on what you're doing. Um, I think it would be kind of stressful to only do the old stuff.
Hmm.
because then you have to measure we're classical musicians, we're basically cover bands, right? We do stuff that's been done before. We play music by other people.
Sure.
And there's the natural consequence of that is that you hold yourself up to anybody who's done it before you. So in that way, you measure yourself against anything that's been done with the same piece, right? That can be stressful. When you
Yeah.
talk about recording stuff, for example, if you talk about recording a Beethoven quartet, right, or a Shostakovich quartet, but especially like Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, stuff like that, you talk with your quartet about we should do a recording about something cool. Let's do this Beethoven. We really like it. We think we could do something about it. Then you go on YouTube just to check out what other people have done, right?
Hmm.
You can just keep scrolling for I don't know how many days, and you can find new recordings of that same piece, right?
Sure.
I think that's kind of stressful in a way because then it becomes such a confused situation because you want to do it, but just looking at how many times that piece has been recorded to you kind of turns me off from it
Hmm.
as well. So if you're recording something that's been done 1,000 times before, then it's either because you really love it, and I think that's a good enough reason, actually. That's a good enough reason, but you have to really make sure you love it though.
Hmm. Yes.
Or you think you could do something really new with it, right? Or it could be a mix of the two, of course. I really like where we ended up because we have a little bit of, it feels like not everything, but we're four different people, four different backgrounds, four different tastes in music. And we have a little bit of everything put into this big pot that's the quartet.
Hmm.
And what comes out is it's like a really good mix of everything, right? Compromise in a way. People say sometimes compromise is not the best solution. Nobody makes nobody happy, right? But I think in our case, it makes everybody happy. I was brought up in a very classical family. I was brought up in a very like old school classical family, lots of vibrato, legato stuff.
Hmm.
And for many years, that's how my ears were trained to listen. And but I changed, and that's because of these other three guys in the quartet. Because they pushed stuff at me, and they kept pushing, and because I love those guys, and I know that they have great ears. Then I listened to it, right, because I trusted them, and now my kind of taste in music has shaped itself from them, which is a really nice feeling. I don't even remember the question any longer, but
That's okay.
I'm just talking. Uh,
It's
but
wonderful.
yeah, it was something about stressful situations, different kinds of
Yes.
music.
Yeah.
I think I felt like lately I've been feeling less stressful actually, and I think it's because we're at a good place. I tend to get nervous for every concert there is.
Hmm.
But I've felt less stressful, and I think it's because I'm kind of embracing finally who we are as musicians and who I am. I don't I don't think too much about what other people think about my playing any longer. I trust my friends on stage and I trust my own ability at least to a certain degree. And I think if you truly believe in what you're doing, if you feel like what you're doing is yourself, right? You're doing something because it feels good, then things will be less stressful. If you're trying to do something that other people tell you to do, and there's a lot of that in classical music, right? Right? You play a piece, you don't really know why you're playing it,
Hmm.
other than somebody told you to play it in a way, right?
Yeah.
Then things can be stressful because it gets more confused, right? So I think there's no things can always get stressful, right?
Yes, of
If you're
course.
playing to other people. But if you're doing what you really believe in, then it will at least feel better, I think.
Oh, I love hearing the emphasis on trust in the other players and trust in yourself. And I've experienced this. I'm sure lots of other people have. That chamber music is really about relationships more than anything else, and
Yeah.
people who are close friends play chamber music the best. So that's great to hear about that. Um, and getting nervous for performances, and that never goes away, I suppose. But do you would you say that you four as a quartet or individually have any sort of like backstage rituals or something that helps you kind of get zoned in and settle the nerves a little bit?
Actually, I don't think we have a lot of rituals. We do,
Hmm.
I think we probably have a few that we don't really think too much about. Um, there's things that always happen, people we spend a lot of time together, so obviously we're also gonna spend a lot of time together on the backstage, but
Hmm.
at some point people seek away from each other during before the concert because you need a little space just to gather your thoughts. And in my case, I like warming up, but I also like a little bit of silence just to enjoy the calm feeling and like breathing, control, like focus on my breathing. Then we have just before we go on stage, if I'm because like I said, I always got nervous throughout my whole life as a musician. I always got nervous. And if I get really nervous now, we don't do anything super special, but I tell them, I just go and tell them, guys, I'm super nervous today.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really matter too much what they say. Often they're calming, right? They give me a hug or whatever, a pat on the back or something. But just having said it to somebody you care about and trust, that actually helps, right?
Yes, of course.
And then we have one thing that we have like a what's that called? I don't know. We have a thing that we say before each concert, but that's a secret. I can't tell you.
I see. Yes. Fair. It's
Of
just for
course.
the four of you. The audience isn't
Yeah,
as
just for us.
I love that. That's wonderful. I love hearing about the relationship and just how you all work together as a quartet. It's really inspiring. So, a couple more things just about tour and getting to know you guys a little bit before you come join us in Nashville. But obviously, you've performed a ton, toured a ton. But if you had to narrow it down, and this might be a hard question, if you had to narrow it down, do you have a favorite hall or a favorite space that you've all played in anywhere in the
That is a really hard question.
world?
And it's
Top
a
three,
question
maybe.
that we get you get that once in a while, right? What's your favorite place or favorite concert hall?
Hmm.
I'm really sorry, but I can't really answer it in a clear way
That's okay.
because that depends too, right? You could play in a really good hall where it sounds just right and it feels amazing to play in there. But then if you don't have any relationship with the people around it or the organization or just the audience or you go in, you play, you leave again without having almost talked to anybody, then you know what I mean, right? That's a good place to play in, but it didn't feel good in a way, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go to something that doesn't really sound really well, but the people around it are awesome. And
Hmm.
then, or maybe the nature around it is incredible. And then it's a really good experience. Or you could go to some place and it's a good hall, it's a nice crowd, but you go to a bar afterwards and you'll never forget that night
Hmm.
because something extraordinary happened or something really fun or you create memories together, right? So it depends. It depends. But there's great halls everywhere. I think there's some of the check mark halls. That's always going to be a good or a big experience playing in them, I think, right? I remember being on backstage for Carnegie Hall the first time we were there. I was so focused and kind of had been in the zone for like almost months leading into it. So when it finally happened, I didn't really even or really recognize that I was there. I didn't really realize it. And I remember just being there backstage before the concert, and all of a sudden that it struck me. I'm in the backstage of Carnegie Hall, and I was looking at you get this little card when you go backstage, just like a visitor, Danish String Quartet, Carnegie Hall, right? And I think I looked at that and I was like, those like
Fair.
so those things are kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
yeah. But I think actually, and this is being completely honest, I think it's more about the people around it.
Hmm.
Sometimes you create relationships around a hall, and that's gonna be an awesome place.
That's awesome. I'm sure this will probably have a similar answer. Um, not to be repetitive, but I was also wondering what are some top favorite works and quartets and pieces that you all play together, like things where you just really enjoy programming them or really jump at the chance to get to play them. What comes to mind?
There's a couple of different ones that I think I should probably mention. So me being the kind of maybe still a little bit old school classical part of the quartet. I mean, that's just my upbringing, and I don't really think I'm there any longer. But I really enjoyed. I don't know. I feel very privileged that we got to do three Beethoven cycles in our career, and I'm just really, really, really thankful that we got to do those. It's kind of a really old school answer, but but I really enjoyed it. It's because I really enjoyed it. I really did. We did a Beethoven cycle in Alice Tully Hall in New York City at Lincoln Center, and this was in February of 2020.
Oh yeah.
And basically 2 days after our last concert, the world shut down with Corona, right? So we could have just as easily missed that cycle. And that cycle was a big experience for me, playing all those Beethoven quartets. I think, in particular, the late quartets by Beethoven, I always had a very, very strong relationship to. Those are pieces that I feel like I can relate to, or there's room for me in those pieces on a human level. I feel like all uh, the me with all my weird things and not perfect stuff. There's room for me in there. That kind of music that it just has room for anybody. But then I also really we have a little festival back home in Copenhagen that we curate ourselves. We do everything. And some of those years we've done 18 now, 18 years of that festival. And I have some very strong memories from those festivals from we tend to do very curated programs where we cut pieces up, not only movement by movement, but also just we do we cut the movement itself into pieces and put it together with
Oh,
all the stuff and around the room, and so you
wow.
create like your own kind of piece in a way, right?
That's
Just
cool.
written by bits and pieces written by others
Wow.
mostly. And those concerts I like a lot too. We've had some really nice uh, yeah, concerts there.
That's awesome. That's really inspiring. I think for myself as a young musician to think about like finding room in the music for yourself and finding something that resonates with you. I really appreciate that. So that's wonderful. Um, I have a couple more short things, fun things.
Mhm.
Um, one, do any of you in the quartet, do your instruments have names, or do you feel as though your instruments have personalities?
Actually, I don't think so. No, I don't
Really?
think so. No, we treat them with respect, and you spend so much time with them. I don't think mine has a personality in that way. Not like a human personality. I think it has temperament though, but that's because when you travel with it, you feel how it changes, right? You go to different humidity or
Of course.
temperature, and it changes. You can feel it a lot, and so that kind. But I don't know, and definitely they don't have names. I think that would kind of uh, to me, that will feel like it's almost too close of a relationship in a way to it. I don't know, and I don't know. Yeah, no.
It's totally fair. That's fun. And that's a shared sentiment across the quartet. You think it's
I
the
think
case?
so. I haven't heard of any names. Maybe they're secret ones. I
Maybe
doubt
there's
it. I doubt it.
a secret. Well, how long have you had this violin that you play on?
The one I play on, I've had for 3 years or something.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it's lent to me by a Danish foundation that
Oh,
that
wonderful.
lends out instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, well, it's almost time. I guess I was just wondering one last thing. In terms of you collectively as a group, you've talked about trust and the relationship and wanting to build relationship with your audience. is there something special about this coming program that you're presenting in Nashville that all of us are so looking forward to? Is there one thing or a general idea about that program that you're really hoping to leave with the audience? What's the biggest impact you're hoping to have with that program?
Um, well, that program is kind of on paper at least sort of an eclectic one because there's bits and pieces of different things. Um, but that's also how we really like to do it. And we try to create programs that mix and match, or at least has some kind of, if not narrative, then at least a strong connection. Um, and I think the Shaw and the Haydn is a good example of how we like to create music. That because she was writing this piece, she was inspired by this harmonic transition, like that. It's called I think it's called a mediant in English.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's basically what and that connection was she found in the Haydn quartet that we're playing. So she wrote this piece inspired by Haydn, and we just decided that we found out that going from her piece to the Haydn to the third movement Haydn, that's the same harmonic structure, that's the same harmonic transition. So we love this piece. So basically, we found a good excuse to play that movement, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit what we did. It
I love that.
makes sense on a like technical level as well, but we also just wanted a really good excuse to put those two pieces together, right? So you
Nice.
can come up with a super clever explanation, and it's there, but it's also just because we wanted to do it.
That's
And
wonderful.
and then we're also going to do some of our own folk stuff, which we've been doing for many years now. And that's also a part that we all really love to do. It's a part that's very much us. Um, and I think, and then of course the Shostakovich number four. So basically four things that are on paper very different. Um, but at least we like to think of music less in boxes. It matters less what kind of genre you play if you play it well. That's at least what we think. And you can put things together that on paper doesn't really fit if you do it really well and if you have a good thought about it, if you have a nice narrative, or if it's well curated or something, right? Then it will make sense if it's your um, way of doing it.
That's great. Yeah, just the passion to put it together and to share. Well, that's wonderful. We are in Nashville, so excited to have you. Can't wait for this concert. It's going to be great. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.